Hello! In this video we're going to be looking at comparing fractions. So that's going to be deciding if we've got a few fractions, which is the biggest and which is the smallest. Our intention then for this video is that we will be able to compare fractions. Let's give it a go. Before we do, I want to make sure that we know two important words, and those words are numerator and denominator. Slightly tricky words to say, numerator and denominator. And what that means is the two numbers that make up a fraction. So if I've got a fraction, let's say my fraction is 2/5, then this number on top, the 2, is called the numerator. So this guy here, 2, is the numerator. This guy on the bottom, the 5, that is the denominator. Okay? So the number on top, we call that the numerator. And you might like to make a note of this somewhere because I'll probably use those words. So we're going to need to remember what they are. Numerator is the top number, and then the bottom number is called the denominator. And that's true of any fraction, not just 2/5. Whoops. Nator. There we go. So number on the top, that's called the numerator. Number on the bottom, that's called the denominator. Good. Okay, let's carry on. So this question is asking us which is bigger, and I've got two fractions here: 2/3 or 3/4. Which is bigger, 2/3 or 3/4? And I've got a couple of grids here that's going to help me answer this question. So let's do like we did before. We're going to shade in some different colours. So 2/3. I'm going to shade 2/3 of this shape here in blue. So here's 1/3 shaded there. I'm going to shade 2/3. There we go. That's 2/3, and we can see that that's definitely 2/3, right? Because this shape is split into 1, 2, 3 rows, right? 1, 2, 3 rows, and I've shaded in 1, 2 of those rows. So that's 2/3. Let's choose another colour then for my 3/4. Now I'm going to shade this shape, 3/4 of this shape, and this shape is split into 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So I'm just going to need to shade in 3 of those columns. And there's one column, so that's 1/4, 2/4, and the last one then 3/4. There we go. It's not very neat, but that'll do. And now we need to decide which one is bigger. So which one have I shaded in more of? Is more of this one shaded in, or is more of this one shaded in? Now there's a really easy way that we can tell because we can count the squares that I've shaded, right? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those squares are shaded. So this one is 8 out of, well, how many in total? 8 is my numerator. What's my denominator? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this is 8/12 is shaded. And how about this one here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 have been shaded. So 9 is going to be my numerator. And how am I my denominator then? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, it's the same as before, isn't it? It's 12, 9/12. So now what we've got is a couple of equivalent fractions. 2/3 is equivalent to 8/12, and 3/4 is equivalent to 9/12. And now it's really easy to tell which one is bigger, right? Which is bigger out of 8/12 and 9/12? Well, it's obvious that 9/12 is the bigger one. So because 9/12 is bigger, that means 3/4 is bigger. So we can write as our answer to this question, 3/4 is bigger than 2/3. And we can see that they're bigger because I've shaded 2/3 of this shape, which is the same as 8/12. I've shaded 3/4 of this shape, which is the same as 9/12, and obviously 9/12 is bigger than 8/12. Okay, let's do a few more. Which is bigger here then? 2/5 or 1/3? I'm going to do exactly the same thing here, okay? So 2/5 of this shape. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, so I'm going to need to shade in 2 of those 5 columns. 1, 2 columns shaded in. There we go. And this one I'm just going to shade in 1/3, so that is, there we go, 1/3, one of those 3 rows. Now we can make our equivalent fractions. What have I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 is my numerator out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 6 out of 15, 6/15ths. And how about this one? Well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is my numerator out of, well, it's the same shape, isn't it? So it's 5 out of 15. And again, which one is bigger? Is it 6/15ths or is it 5/15ths? Obviously, it's 6/15ths. 6/15ths is more than 5/15ths. So this one is my bigger fraction because 2/5 is the same as this one. So I'm going to write that my answer is 2/5 is bigger than 1/3. There we go. I'm going to do one more now, but I'm not going to have these pictures. Whoops. I'm not going to have these pictures to help me. So let's give it a go. So now I've got 5/8 or 3/5. Now what I want to do is I want to make those equivalent fractions again, but I'm not going to have the diagrams to help me. So we're just going to have to think about how we can make those equivalent fractions. So I've got 5/8 and I've got 3/5. And I need to write those as some equivalent fractions. And what I want to do is, like we did on the other ones, I want them to have the same denominator. So on this one, I made both of the denominators 15, didn't I? And on this one, there we go, I made both of the denominators 12. So let's go back to our question. I've got an 8 as my denominator here, and I've got a 5 as my denominator here. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for a number which is in the 8 and the 5 times table, and I reckon that the number we're going to have to choose is 40, because 40 is definitely in the 8 times table. What is it? It's 8 times 5. And how about this one then? I reckon I can put 40 on the bottom here, because 40 is also in the 5 times table. It's 5 times 8, isn't it? So 5 times 8 makes 40, and 8 times 5 makes 40. So all we need to do is the same with those numerators. So because I've multiplied by 5 on the bottom here to make this a 40, I'm going to need to do the same on the top. I'm going to need to multiply by 5. So let's do that. 5 multiplied by 5, well, that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So I've got 25/40ths. And this one, I multiplied by 8 on the bottom. So I'm going to do the same on the top. I'm going to multiply by 8. Multiply by 8, and 3 times 8, well, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. Now, 3/5 is equivalent to 24/40ths, 5/8 is equivalent to 25/40ths. Which is bigger? Well, only slightly, but this one is bigger, right? 25/40ths is a little bit more than 24/40ths. So my answer to this question is 5/8 is bigger than 3/5. That's my answer to the question, because we had to make equivalent fractions that had the same denominator. Okay. Last thing we're going to look at then is putting fractions in order. So if I've got more than 2 fractions, we can use the same kind of idea to put them in order from smallest to biggest. So let's look at an example then. We're going to put these fractions in order from smallest to largest. So I've got 3/4, 1/2 and 1/3, and we want to write those just like we did before, so they've each got the same denominator. So I've got 3/4, I've got 1/2, I've got 1/3. Now I want to write these as equivalent fractions, but where the bottom number, the denominators, are all the same. So I'm going to need to choose something that's in the 4 and the 2 and the 3 times table. And I reckon a number that I'll be able to use is 12, because 12 is definitely in the 4 times table, isn't it? It's 4 times 3. 12 is definitely in the 2 times table. It's 2 times 6. And 12 is definitely in the 3 times table. It's 3 times 4. Okay, so I'm going to have all of these fractions will have 12 as their denominator, and we just need to work out what these numerators need to be. So let's start at the top. I multiplied by 3 on the bottom, my denominators, so I'm going to have to multiply by 3 on the top. Multiply by 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. Same thing over here then. I multiplied by 6 on the bottom, so I'm going to need to multiply by 6 on the top. And 1 times 6, that's a nice easy one, is 6. And the last one, we've got 3, we multiplied it by 4, so I'm going to have to multiply by 4 on the top. Okay, multiply by 4, 1 times 4, again another easy one, is 4. So now we just need to decide which is smallest, which is biggest. Well, 4 twelfths, that's obviously the smallest, 6 twelfths is going to come next, and then 9 twelfths is the biggest. So let's pop those in order. The smallest one was this one here, so that's a third is the smallest one. And then what comes next? The next biggest one was 6 twelfths, so that's a half comes next, a half. So the biggest one was whatever's left over, it must have been 3 quarters. Good. 3 quarters, cool. And so this is the smallest at this end, smallest, and this is the biggest. Biggest. Let's do one more of these. Okay, we've been asked to put these fractions in order from smallest to largest, and I've got one more this time. I've got 4 fractions, and we've got 7 tenths, 3 fifths, 1 half, and 4 fifths. So I'm going to need to do same as before. We're going to write them as equivalent fractions with a common denominator, the same number on the bottom. So we've got 7 tenths, we've got 3 fifths, we've got 1 half, and we've got 4 fifths. Now I want to find a number which is in the 10 and the 5 and the 2 and the 5 times table. And I reckon a number that I'll be able to use is 10. So that's good news for this one, because I don't need to change that one at all. 7 tenths can stay as 7 tenths. How about this one then? I'm going to need to do some work on this one, because we're going to need to make that a 10. So we're multiplying everything by 2. Oops, there we go. How about this one? If I want to make that a 10 on the bottom, we're going to have to multiply it by 5. And this one here, if I want to make that a 10 on the bottom, we're going to have to multiply it by 2 again. There we go. So we didn't have to do any work on this top one. I can leave that there as 7 tenths. But this one, I'm timesing by 2 on the bottom, so let's do the same on the top. I'm going to multiply by 2, and 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. We've got 6 tenths there. What about here? I've multiplied by 5 on the bottom. So we're going to multiply by 5 on the top, times by 5, and 1 times 5 is 5. I should have an equal sign in there, shouldn't I? Because these are equal to each other. Same here, equal sign here. Last one then, 5 multiplied by 2, well that's 10. So we're going to have to multiply by 2 on the top, multiply by 2, and 4 times 2 is 8. Right, so now I've got equivalent fractions. 7 tenths, 3 fifths, 1 half, 4 fifths are the same as 7 tenths, 6 tenths, 5 tenths, and 8 tenths. And now it should be easy to spot that the smallest one is this one here. 1 half is the smallest. 1 half is going to come first. And then what's coming next? This one's the next smallest then, isn't it? 6 tenths was the same as 3 fifths. So we've had 5 tenths, we had 6 tenths. 7 tenths is coming next then. 7 tenths is the third biggest. 7 tenths. And my last one, my biggest one then, is 8 tenths, which was the same as 4 fifths. So 4 fifths. That's the biggest one. Great.